Good day, everyone. I am Michael Alibertia Post. I was tasked to report the agencies and laws that help us OFW. These are the following agencies. First is the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, CFO, the Department of Labor and Employment, DOLE, Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, POEA, Department of Foreign Affairs, DFA, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, OWA, and lastly, the Overseas Filipino Bank. The Commission on Filipinos Overseas, CFO, is an agency of the Philippine government under the office of the President tasked to promote and uphold the interests, the rights and welfare of overseas Filipinos and strengthen their ties with their motherland. The function of CFO is to provide assistance to the President of the Congress of the Philippines in the formulation of policies and measures concerning affecting OFWs overseas. So, they provide assistance to the President and they make laws and policies concerning on the Filipinos overseas, just like for example, in other country there is a civil war, they provide assistance, and the President of the Philippines, they make policies that help the OFWs. Second function is to develop and they implement programs to promote the interest and well-being of Filipinos. When I say well-being, is the state of comfortability. So they implement programs to make their lives better. Just like good salary. They make sure that the OFW hold their passport and they keep track on their salary. The third function is to serve as a forum for preserving and enhancing the social, economic and cultural ties of Filipinos overseas with the motherland, meaning even though they are in the other country, they enhance the social, economic and cultural ties with the Filipinos and with their motherland. So they also promote their country. They make meetings just like that to enhance the cultural ties. And the liaise on behalf of Filipinos overseas with appropriate government and private agencies in the transaction of business and similar ventures in the Philippines. The DOLE, the Department of Labor and Employment, is one of the executive departments of the Philippine government mandated to formulate policies, they implement programs and services, and serve as the policy coordinating arm of the executive branch in the field of labor and employment. Executive branch meaning they include the President, the Vice President, and the Senators in the field of labor and employment. DOLE is tasked with the enforcement of the provision of the Labor Code. It has continuously evolved its trust and strategies to respond to the emerging socio-political and economic challenges while keeping a primary concern for protection and promotion of the welfare of the local and overseas Filipino workers. So the primary concern is to protect not just the local workers, also overseas Filipino workers. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, POEA, is an agency that handles OFW industry regulation, employment facilitation, and workers protection. So let us integrate this following. First is the industry regulation. A core function of POAA is to ensure that the recruitment process of manning agencies is ethical and legal, meaning they ensure that the process is legal, so they make sure that the process is legal and mandated by law. This program starts with the agency monitoring overseas job advertisement across multiple media platforms, meaning they advertise if there is job vacancies overseas through multiple media platforms like their website and any media platforms. They also regulate the industry through setting minimum labor standard. So they issue licenses to overseas recruitment and manning agencies. So POAA are the one that give licenses to the recruitment process that this the legit manning agencies that recruit overseas, because illegal recruiter is very dangerous. It results to human trafficking. Also, it incentivizing private sector participant and penalizing non-compliant parties. So they penalizing the non-compliant parties so that they minimize the legal recruitment. The second is the employment facilitation. The POA employment facilitation program ensures the protection of your rights while you are employed, meaning they make sure that your rights will never take away from you when you are employed. And the core of this program is in market research, monitoring, and development. This core help POA to facilitate programs like pre-employment orientation for WS, meaning is before they go to overseas, they hold programs like pre-employment orientation, just like what are you expecting when you go in that place, and what do you expect there, and what are the opportunities, and also worker registry system, accreditation of foreign employees. So POA accredited foreign employers. Filipinos are not the one that work abroad. Also, the foreigners, they go to our country and work. They facilitate that the deployment of workers by government to government arrangements. So POA deploy workers through government to government arrangement and an evaluation and processing of employment contracts. Lastly is the workers protection. It is one of the most important programs of POA in the pre-deployment orientation seminars, PDOS. Remember that a PDOS certification is a requirement before deployment. So before you are deployed, you need to undergo pre-deployment orientation seminars. This seminar, together with a pre-employment orientation and anti-legal recruitment seminar, prepare your life as an OFW. Aside from imparting vital information, they also ensure your protection through deploying only to sanctuaries and companies compliant with the amended Migration Workers Act, providing legal assistance like filing, prosecuting, and penalizing to any victim of illegal recruitment, OFW global mapping and profiling, and providing repatriation assessment. The Department of Foreign Affairs, DFA, is one of the executive department of the Philippine government tasked to contribute to the enhancement of national security and protection of the territorial integrity and national sovereignty, to participate in the national endeavor of sustaining development and enhancing the Philippines' competitive edge, to protect the rights and promote the welfare of Filipinos overseas, and to mobilize them as a partners in national development, to project a positive image of the Philippines, and to increase international understanding of Philippine culture for mutually beneficial relation with other countries. That is the function of Department of Foreign Affairs. Next is OWA, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. It's an agency of the Department of Labor and Employment. So the OWA is one of the agency of the DOLE. It protects the interests of Filipino workers. Their main function is to protect the interests of Filipinos workers and their families, providing with social security, the cultural services, and to help with the employment, remittances, and legal matters. It is funded by an obligatory annual contribution from workers and their employers. Lastly is the Overseas Filipino Bank, OFB. The Overseas Filipino Bank is the state-owned, digital-only, branchless bank in the Philippines. It is formerly known as the Philippine Postal Saving Bank, PPSB, or Postbank. It is the smallest of the Philippine three state-owned banks, the other being the Land Bank of the Philippines and Development Bank of the Philippines. And also it is the 16th largest thrift bank in terms of asset. Its services are catered to the needs of overseas Filipinos, overseas Filipino workers, and their families or beneficiaries. Since 2018, it has been a subsidiary of Land Bank. The laws that protect the welfare and interests of the OFWs are the following: the Republic Act number 10801, the Republic Act 8042, and Republic Act 122. Lastly, the Republic Act 7111. Republic Act number 1081 is an act governing the operation and administration of the Overseas Worker Welfare Administration. It is also known as Overseas Worker Welfare Administration Act. The policy of the state is to afford full protection of the labor. It may be local and overseas, organized or unorganized, and to promote full employment opportunities for all. Toward this end, it shall be the state's responsibility to protect the overseas Filipino workers. The second is the Republic Act number 842 and the Republic Act 122. Republic Act 8042, Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995, an act to institute the policies of overseas employment and establish a higher standard of protection and promotion of the welfare of migrant workers, their families, and overseas Filipinos in distress and for other purposes. Republic Act, on the other hand, Republic Act number 122 is an act amending the Republic Act 8042, also known as the Migration Workers Act Overseas Filipino of 1995, as amended for further improving the standard of protection and promotion of the welfare of migrant workers, their family, and overseas Filipino in distress. The changes made of RA 80422 to 122 is the Section 1, the paragraph A, E, G, and H, and the Section 2 of the Republic Act 8042 as amended, otherwise known as the Migrant Workers Act of the Filipinos 1995, is hereby amended. So when you say amended, it is small changes to make it better. The last law is the Republic Act number 7111, an act establishing the Overseas Workers Investment Fund to provide incentives to overseas workers, reduce the poor and debt burden, and for other purposes. This act is also known as Overseas Workers Investment OWI Fund Act. To protect and promote the welfare of Filipino overseas workers, to pioneer and develop innovative means to provide incentives and to uplift the workers' family living standard. It is likewise the policy of the state to reduce the poor and debt burden in order to better achieve a sustainable economic growth by tapping the unofficial and informal remittances of the said workers. What are informal remittances? Are sometimes settled through goods trade. The costs of the remittance transaction include a fee charge by sending agent, typically paid by the sender, and a currency conversion fee for delivery of local currency to the beneficiary in other country. The effects of W remittances to the Philippine economy. Figure 1 is the total overseas migrants and remittances in the Philippines. In the left part are the total migrants, overseas migrants. And the x-axis is the year. On the right part is the US dollar billions. In the table, they highlight the Asian crisis. The total OFW deployed are the same, or it is maybe taas sa gamay, but because of the Asian crisis, the OFW remittances dropped from the year 1998 to 1999. There is a drop in the remittances. Toward the end of 2010, the Philippines will have a complete generation of international migration and remittance experience. In the early years of temporary migration, a demand for workers was generally for low-skilled and technical workers. In the early 1970s, the Philippines' labor export strategy benefited mostly the middle and low-skilled workers are sent in the oil-rich countries of the Middle East. Domestic demand for service workers, around 70% are domestic workers and caregivers, remained robust. The surge in production workers, on the other hand, was propelled mainly by the construction boom in the Middle East and some parts of Asia like Singapore and Macau, China. Construction workers and ordinary laborers comprise around 26% of the total production workers in 2008, as against only 19% in 2000. The global demand for Filipino workers is summarized through new hires data from the POEA administration.